Standing before you is a regular teacher that is going to take you on the chemistry class today. You are welcome to Fidel Academy. The fastest way of understanding chemistry, the basic thing you should have at your fingertip, you should know the element, no element at your fingertips. Then after knowing element at your fingertip also, you should also know no compounds. No compounds. Not only knowing the compounds, but what you need to do is that you should be able to know the balancing of a chemical equation. Balancing of a chemical equation, because once you see a compound, balancing of a chemical equation. And under this part of balancing of a chemical equation, you also need to know the one that is a radical or an anions. Or also what you need to do is that you have to know their valency. You have to know what is called the valency of an element. Valency of an element will aid you to balance any chemical equation. To understand chemistry, you need to know your element. And your element, under this, I've mentioned element, compounds, valency of a chemical equation, balance of a chemical equation. Then also the valency of an element, because the valency of an element will aid you to balance a chemical equation, because without understanding this, you cannot balance this, you cannot form a compound from this, which a particular chemical substance from another one. For example, now when you are talking about an element, you are looking at hydrogen. Hydrogen, you are also looking at your helium, you are looking at lithium, and so on. So on this note, once you can be able to identify each of these element, be able to know how to understand chemistry very fast. Then also when you are talking about compounds, for example, I've mentioned, for example, the previous one I mentioned compound like ammonium chloride. So chloride, this is a compound. Once you can be able to identify this, what makes this compound, for example, you are having sodium plus your chlorine. On this note, you are seeing that this is a positive and this is a negative, and that means that this one is looking for an electron, this is accepting an electron, and this is directing an electron. So on this note, you can be able to, if you understand that this one is giving that and this one is accepting, and on this note, on the atom shell of this is accepting because it's looking for one electron to complete this atom shell, while this is having extra electron on the upper part of the atom shell of the electron, which is a single one, which can be easily be donated to another element. On this one, you now see that this under this is minus, this is 1, and this is 1 also. So during this will give out to this, and you now have the sodium chloride. Sodium chloride. Then on this note, we have been able, if you can be able to know, but this is to balance it, because what we are balancing now is that balancing has to do with giving. Maybe this one is not having complete, but this one is having complete with one extra one, so it's giving to this other one to make it balance. This particular moment now, you've been able to balance this equation because you are able to know the valency, which is this is 1 and this is minus 1, because this is minus 1 means that this is looking for an electron, and this is telling you that it's plus 1. This one have an extra one which can be given to this compound. On this note, if you can be able to understand some of these basic things, these are the basic things. Then also another part of it which you need to know also is the type of reactions that is taking place. Either the reaction that is taking place among them, because the rate at which those chemical reactions can occur will also aid you to understand chemistry. Then another thing you should also know on this note is that chemistry is a course that is very easy to understand when you have the basic principle, and the basic principle behind them, those chemical techniques a separation technique. Also, you should also be able to know some of those separation techniques, because those separation techniques will also aid you to understand some part of chemistry tasks. Once you can be able to separate those chemical compounds, maybe through a physical means or a chemical means, all those will aid you to understand chemistry. So once you can be able to understand those basic things that I've already mentioned, those things will aid you to understand chemistry very easy. And there is no how you will miss your way out, because this will also lead you. Because on this node, when you are balancing a chemical equation, you are also looking at the number of moles that are involved, in those reactions. Not only the number of moles, you are also looking at the molarities that is also present. Then the molarity on that node will also tell you about more of that compound. Molarity has to do with the concentration in grams per dm cube of that solution. So the concentration in grams per dm cube of that solution, that will aid you, because once you are talking about the molarity in this node, we are looking at concentration in grams per dm cube all over molar mass. So on this node, you also see that with this, if you can be able to have this basic knowledge, maybe for example in your SSE, they might ask you concentration in grams. What they ask you just to do a simple chemical reaction, a chemical changes with your way of change of subject formula. So you do well to join the class. By next class, you do well to subscribe, do well to follow the channel and share with other people.